What's up, everybody? It's your boy Reggie Casual from thecasual.co, and welcome to Unscripted, where we talk about a multitude of topics. It's highly engaged. It's either questions coming from you guys, questions that we thought were important because we didn't think that there was enough information out there on it, or anything. So basically, that's what this is. I'm gonna be go ahead and spitting off about how you can start your own clothing brand. That's always a good thing to start off with. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube, but they're not necessarily giving you like the methodology. They're not telling you what you should do. There is a method to the madness. And I'm basically gonna lay out the first part about it, and that is philosophy. I'm gonna tell you how to create the philosophy of your brand. It's the most important aspect of your brand. Before you even start designing, creating a name, doing any type of sales, building a website, or anything like that, you need to have the philosophy down, especially if you plan on having your brand be future-proof, stand the test of time, so to speak. So yeah, let's talk about philosophy and how you can make your philosophy the easy way. All right, so in order to make the philosophy of your brand, you gotta know what philosophy of a brand is. And basically, the philosophy of your brand is the core message of your brand, the basics of your brand. That's the basics right there. The basics of your brand, you gotta know it. If I go up to you and I ask you, what's your brand about? It can't be generic. It can't be like, oh, yo, it's like against the conformity of society. Like, I don't care about that, because that's what every street fashion brand tells me. If you don't have a core message of your brand, you basically don't have anything to prop it up on. Like, some core messages are simply, we use this lifestyle to create these kind of products using the best kind of fabrics. And that's cool because you're being honest. And so in order to get that, you have to know what your philosophy is, and you have to break it down in its parts. So what I do and what I tell other people when I consult people about starting their own brands, I always give them the methodology that I used when I was a designer, a graphic designer, and which I still use today, and that is the 20-20-20 method. 20-20-20 is a method that is 20 words, 20 questions, and 20 answers. Now, most designers will probably say, I've never heard of that, but that's because they've been taught to do this. But those of you who are not designers, or who are just thinking about starting your own design, 20-20-20 is going to help you a lot. 20 words, 20 questions, 20 answers, and it's self-explanatory by now. You probably already know what you gotta do. So yeah, write down 20 words, right? 20 words that represent your brand. And what's great about this is that you don't have to actually choose like description words only. You can literally choose any word that you want. You could choose big, popcorn, black. You could pick a name. You could be like Kanye West, Pharrell, I don't know. You could Rihanna. You could pick a brand. You could be like Supreme. Yeah, basically you could put down any word that you want. So go ahead and do that practice. Go ahead and put down those 20 words. Now, if you put less than 20 words, it's gonna be too simple. If you put more than 20 words, like a lot more than 20 words, like 30 or 35 or 50, then it becomes too convoluted. So you wanna go ahead and truncate like the best words into 20. And if you don't have up to 20, you're gonna wanna go ahead and make it a little bit longer so you can really hone down what is your brand concept about. This is exactly what you do to get the philosophy down. And then you're gonna ask yourself 20 questions. And those 20 questions are really easy. You're gonna ask the question, why, to each one of those words. Why did I pick Kanye West? Or why did I pick Pharrell? Or why did I pick Vêtements or Vetements? Why did I pick Fear of God? Or why did I pick wine? Or why did I pick cookies? Or why did I pick The Simpsons? Or whatever you were thinking of at the time, you're gonna ask the question why. And then you're going to answer that. See, it's self-explanatory. You're gonna answer that with 20 answers. But here's the catch. You're not just gonna answer the questions like, oh, I like The Simpsons, or black is good because it's like just black. No, you're not gonna do that. That's not how we're gonna go about starting your brand. You're actually going to do something that is going to be key and instrumental to your brand going forward, and that is research. So you wrote down all these 20 words and you asked these 20 questions, and now you're gonna research the answer instead of giving those quick answers. And a lot of you out there are thinking, oh yeah, I can do that in like a week. You're not gonna wanna take a week. You're gonna wanna take like 2 weeks to a month to flesh this out. Because what happens is when you do this, when you actually research, you will begin to have ideas about your brand, collection, or line that you did not have before. You start looking up black, and then you start saying, oh, well, that is something that I couldn't really express in words, but now I can express it in words because I researched it. You see what this does? It's called research development. Everybody does it. And every designer that I know that is a trained designer does this instinctively because they were taught this either in school or they read the books or whatever. Like, we're always asking questions, and that question is pivotal to our success in creating the thing that you envision. And as a designer, if you are starting a brand, you want to do that with yourself. And the way that you do that is you create this list of things that you automatically think about. It could be anything. And also what this does for you is it separates your brand and what you're about to design from the thing that you are inspired by, influenced by, because a lot of street fashion brands end up copying other street fashion brands, and that's the reason why they fail so quickly. Yeah, that's right. Most street fashion brands fail, and they fail because they either quit because they didn't have a philosophy, or they were like another brand and they didn't have a philosophy, or they didn't know about the business because they didn't have a philosophy, or they just quit because it was too hard because they didn't have a philosophy. It all comes down to the philosophy of your brand. It always goes back to it. And what do you create from your philosophy? After you've done the research for every single last one of those words, it should take you from like 2 to 3 weeks to really hone down. What do you get? You gain the absolute person that you're trying to target. You get the message of your brand. You get the core ingredients of your brand. You have a better idea of what your logo is gonna look like. You have a better idea what your clothes are gonna look like. You have a better idea what your palette and patterns, and you could basically know everything about your brand before you even start designing it if you do this research. But the real message, especially for street fashion brands, because what's most important in street fashion brands is all that stuff that I mentioned is good, but the most important thing in street fashion brands is the voice of your brand. So what is this voice of your brand? It is the message that you want to convey to the world about what your brand is, what it's about. If you're unable to speak the voice of your brand on its social media, on your website, on your print media, your guerrilla marketing, if you're unable to convey that message, then it's going to look haphazard, like you didn't put anything together. But if you already know the voice of your brand, you're gonna know exactly who to reach, where you need to target, who you need to target, and the exact person that you need to target. And that really helps if you have a voice, which you need a philosophy behind your brand to do. You see how that works? You need a philosophy to create the voice. If you don't have a voice, you're not talking to anybody. You're not saying anything to anybody. You're saying the same thing as everybody else. But if you have your voice, you're able to create your brand in a more, I'd say, fluid way. It'd be more consistent across all media, across the designs, across the logo, across the name. Everything that you do from that point will have meaning, will have a reason, and you'll be able to crush it when you start actually designing and putting the brand together. So to give you an example, I had a friend a few years ago who started a brand, and his brand was called Line Steppers. His only issue was that he didn't have an influx of cash. He didn't have money. And that was his issue. That's why he couldn't get the brand off of the ground the way that he wanted to. But he researched, he did this process, because I told him, I said, do this process and see what happens. And he eventually came up with this brand. He created the name after he started researching. And he said, yo, I got the brand name, let me tell you, and it's called Line Steppers. And I was like, okay, tell me about it. He says, well, the concept is that I'm a part of this community of people that likes to go in these lines and pick up this stuff, I'm like a hype beast, but I don't like being called a hype beast. He didn't like being called a hype beast. He genuinely liked the clothes that he was standing in line for, but he realized that he was a part of this community of people who were in line. And even if you are a hype beast or a person who's really a part of, you know, the brand, the core message of the brand, we all line steppers. We're all sitting there. And I'm like, that is amazing. That's a pretty good idea, bro. And also, what is, you know, when we think of a line stepper, what do we think? Somebody who goes overboard. Habitual line stepper, as Rick James' story goes with Charlie Murphy. You know, rest in peace, Charlie Murphy. But you know what I'm saying? Like, when you hear that, you automatically start equating it to different aspects. He watched the Chappelle Show. Like when Charlie Murphy said Rick James was a habitual line stepper. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. He can add those elements of that kind of pop culture into the brand where people are like, ah, yeah, I get it, because line steppers and then Rick James. You see, he was able to future-proof his line by being able to connect with people that did the same thing as him, and he was able to connect another pop culture reference, and he was able to connect a voice to that brand. We're all line steppers. We go above and beyond. Sometimes we may be aggravating, but we don't care. We're habitual line steppers. His voice was so strong that I thought that it was a crazy idea. I thought it was an absolutely awesome idea. He just didn't have the influx of cash that he really needed to do it. You could do so many things if you have a philosophy, but you have to do that first, because if you do that, you'll know exactly where to go. You're not gonna always have a aha moment like my friend did and say, oh, there's a whole bunch of people who do this, and be able to target them directly. But if you know where the people that you're going to target are, then it's a lot easier, and you can only do that if you have a philosophy behind your brand. You know exactly who to speak to. That's it. That's part one. That's how you start your brand, part one. There's more stuff that you gotta do. But if you have questions or if you need answers to other questions, just go ahead and ask them in the comments below. You heard me. You can ask anything. I can talk about something else. You can say, oh, you can just be like, yo, what is part two? Give me some more information. And I can go ahead and do that for you. Or you can ask something about Japan. This is unscripted. You can ask anything that you want, all right? All you gotta do is subscribe, right? Ask the question, like this video if you like the video, follow up on Instagram, Twitter. You can follow me directly at Reggie Casual, both on Twitter and Instagram. You can do all of that stuff. If you have questions on there, I might be able to answer them. I don't know. Just do it. So keep it locked right here for all of your information on international street fashion and culture from Tokyo, from the office in Tokyo, all right? This is your boy. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. And we out. See you guys in a minute. Let's get out of here.